Steep rate cuts by major central banks, rising geopolitical tensions and a revamped MPC, it is going to be an interesting backdrop to this policy meeting. Now, we first asked respondents if the recent rate cuts by the US Fed in China are going to influence the MPC's decision, and a solid 80% said no, expecting the RBI to stay focused on domestic factors. As for the RBI governor's tone, 40% are expecting a dovish tilt, but the majority 60% still says the tone will be absolutely even, with no clear signal of a policy pivot just yet. What also makes this particular policy more exciting is that it is probably the first meeting of the MPC this year where at least a part of the financial markets are expecting a change in stance, and a very small number even a rate cut. Now, half the respondents are expecting the MPC to shift the stance to neutral in October, while 30% expect it to be retained at withdrawal of accommodation. As for the timing of the stance change, while 50% say it will happen now, the rest of them are forecasting a shift only by December or perhaps even later. On rate cuts, 10% are expecting a 25 basis point cut this time around, but the larger majority sees a status quo because they say the MPC will remain cautious because of food inflation risks. Now, most economists believe the window for a rate cut will open only by December or perhaps even later. On the total quantum of cuts in this entire cycle, 50% see room for a 50 basis point cut, while the remainder are divided between 60 to 100 basis points. Inflation is expected to dominate the governor's address, with 80% saying that the CPI forecast is likely to be left unchanged at 4.5%, although 20% do foresee a slight cut as inflation in the second quarter is expected to marginally undershoot RBI's own estimate. On growth, the economists are pretty split. Half are expecting the forecast to be left unchanged at 7.2%, while the rest expect a downward revision pointing to weaker momentum in the key economic indicators. And lastly, this is the debut meeting for the three new recently appointed external MPC members, Professor Ram Singh, Saugata Bhattacharya and Dr. Nagesh Kumar, and 40% of our respondents believe that the new members are more likely to lean towards maintaining status quo, although some are of the view that there could be one dissenting vote, which should come from Saugata Bhattacharya, citing his recent paper in August making a case for a rate cut. But of course, we'll have to see how the views have evolved since then.
The last hour. Anything can happen between the bells. But what happens during the last hour is what matters the most. The biggest market swings. A close-up look at what's driving them and how the investors are reacting. Watch the most seasoned market mavens guide you through the most important hour of the trading day. NSE Closing Bell. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
Thank you for watching CNBC-TV18, and do follow us on all our social media platforms for news, updates and more.